Hello. So the practices for part one that follow that tour around the immune and respiratory territory, very much coming to it right into these somatic practices, that embodied awareness of loosening, moving in a fascial fluid way. And you'll see that a lot of these are very close to the ground. They're arriving into the territory of our whole being when we are held up and not so prey to the forces of gravity that we might when we're standing and moving around. So there's room then to open out, broaden, and moving away from a sense of doing into simply being and feeling things out. So a real connection with what we might need moment to moment, as opposed to any assumption of what we might need or imposing our will upon our body. So that kindness that also really allows us to tune into boundaries of the immune and respiratory systems. So we start in this position that I always come to when I'm starting practices from on the ground, which is constructive rest position, this very neutral place for the psoas, this ability to meet the ground in a way that lets us know in a full body way, particularly through that kind of back muscles, thigh muscles, that we're not going to be going anywhere here. So it's really allowing that channel up from the inner thighs through the belly and up to the diaphragm to simply be and spend enough time there to have an unwinding process and meeting what is deep into the belly. And it's a place that we can come back to over and over again, a place of integration throughout these practices, which really allows us to drop into what I call here the wisdom of the pause. I think to quote Tara Brach there, but really letting ourselves have time and space to process what came before, rather than adding more and more doing in, more information, or a sense that to do more is simply better in terms of our body. And when we recognize that we need so much healing and recovery, particularly for immune and respiratory health and that regulation through the autonomic nervous system, then to have those moments of tuning in, to let things be received, processed, assimilated, can really shift our practice from being something that's simply physical into something that is a really full spectrum inquiry. So here are a few of the practices within this first part, sequence practices. And you'll see they kind of move around that. They're very much kind of oriented, curated around coming back and into constructive rest, feeling out the whole of that territory from the center out. And that's also can be from the spine out. So they're very kind of body intelligent in terms of sending our awareness more into the center, in order that when we do things that start to be broader and out from the center, that we have spent that time fostering, cultivating our awareness from the midline out to the periphery. And one of the things that we're really looking to meet here is our potential for sensory motor amnesia, which is when we tend to hold our tensions, traumas into tissues in ways where we often no longer notice, or that the signals to release don't really reach an area. So very commonly within modern posture, movement, habits, we can often see that as being held up to the ears, this what we call, discussed through the book as secondary breathing, part of the stress response, to hold ourselves in readiness with tightness in the jaw, for instance. So much of the practice is just a coaxing, a playing into areas, even pulsing, rocking, twisting, rolling, finding ways that just start to wake up areas without any sense of fixing something that's wrong. Very much about a curious, explorative relationship. And so the subtle practices, after the physical practices in each section, come to the subtle practices. Within this section, we come to mindfulness of breathing, so real foundational stuff, not just for meditation, but for how we can use this anchor of awareness of breath as part of our movement as well, and particularly when we're doing movements that might synchronize breath with movement. We'll see in the next part that often that will be kind of spine undulations, for instance, where we might inhale to open the front body, exhale to open the back body. But it also is a very, helpful guidance through what does mindfulness mean? How can that support our practice, our teaching, and our relationships with immune and respiratory systems? Thank you very much, and see you for the next part soon.